Have you ever felt like your company's to-do list is a mile long, but you're not actually getting anywhere? You're just drowning in good ideas, but absolutely starved for real progress? Well, today, we're going to dive into a really powerful framework for making those tough decisions and making sure your resources go where they'll have a real impact.
And it all kicks off with this one simple idea. Every single time you say yes to a new feature, a project, some new initiative, you are, by default, saying no to something else. Your time, your team's focus, your budget. None of it's an infinite well. The problem is, most places don't make that cost visible. So today, we're going to learn how to put a price tag on every single yes.
So, first, let's diagnose the disease. I call it death by wish list. This is that all-too-common story of how a bunch of well-intentioned ideas can lead to, well, total paralysis.
This is the old way, right? You're in a meeting, everyone's got a slide, and every single idea sounds strategic. Leadership nods, politely. Someone says, yeah, we should explore that, and poof, another ghost is born. It's a project with no real owner, no clear ROI, and definitely no resourcing plan. It's just destined to float around in what the source calls backlog purgatory. Basically, just waiting to die.
And why does this happen? Well, it's because we're often asking these incomplete and honestly kind of dangerous questions. Things like, what's the total addressable market? Or is this a competitive differentiator? Now, those aren't bad questions, but by themselves, they don't lead to prioritization. No, they lead to sequencing, just a long list of things to do with no real sense of their comparative value.
So how do you break out of this trap? You do it with the BET model playbook. It's a simple, but let's say brutally effective system that treats every single initiative as what it really is, a bet. And what do we mean by a bet? It's actually defined very clearly. It's any initiative that needs meaningful resources. That could be engineering time, marketing spend, cross-functional headaches, and it carries some level of uncertainty. If it costs you something and the outcome isn't a sure thing, guess what? It's a bet. And every bet needs to be evaluated.
And this is how. This model forces everyone to speak the same language. Every idea gets scored across these 6 dimensions. We're all forced to ask the tough questions. Does it really fit our strategy? What's the real 3-year revenue potential? And what's the total cost to get it done? From there, we can calculate the ROI. But just as important, we have to be honest. How certain are we that we can actually pull this off? And hey, is this a one-and-done solution? Or is it something reusable that helps everyone down the line?
Okay, theory is one thing, but to see this model in practice, let's look at a concrete example from the source material. We'll call it a tale of 2 bets. One's flashy, and the other is just smart.
So on one hand, you've got the flashy, exciting idea, an AI-powered insights dashboard. I mean, it sounds amazing, right? Demo's great, high strategic fit on paper, but when you run it through the model, the truth comes out. The revenue impact, medium. The investment, huge. And the certainty that it'll even work, pretty low. Now, on the other hand, you have this boring idea. Let's improve the client onboarding email flow. But just look at the numbers. It touches 100% of customers, takes a single sprint to build, directly lowers churn risk, and it's highly reusable. The winner is crystal clear, and it is not the flashy one.
The tool itself is really just a simple table where every idea gets scored. But the real magic? It's in that last column, recommendation. This is where the rubber meets the road. It forces a clear decision: accelerate, maintain, reallocate, or sunset. No more maybe later. An idea is either moving forward or it's not, period.
So what actually happens when you put a system like this into place? Well, the impact isn't just gradual, it's immediate. Here's how everything starts to change.
The impact was instant. First, it exposed all the soft stuff, the pet projects that were getting by on good vibes but couldn't stand up to real scrutiny. Second, it totally changed how people pitched their ideas. No more vague concepts. People started showing up with actual revenue models and cost estimates. And third, and this is huge, it gave leaders a non-political, data-driven way to say no without all the hand-waving and hurt feelings. And building on that, they created this tiered system. Tier 1 bets are the big, company-defining moonshots. They get full resources, no question. Tier 2 bets are those promising ideas that still need to prove their value. And Tier 3? Those are the one-offs, the distractions, the custom deal asks that usually just get pushed aside. This gave everyone official permission to stop starting things they couldn't finish, and, just as importantly, to sunset projects that weren't scaling.
But look, implementing a model like this is never a perfectly straight line. To make it really work, you have to understand the lessons learned from the early mistakes. This is the real talk.
And they admit they got things wrong at first.
For one, they overweighted strategic fit, which is so easy to do because you can make anything sound strategic if you squint hard enough. They also forgot to track the actual outcomes to see if their bets actually paid off. And critically, they sometimes let senior voices override the model without data. A model like this only works if it has teeth. So, what was the #1 single most powerful mindset shift they made through all this? It was elevating execution certainty to a top-tier metric. They stopped chasing every speculative idea with some huge uncertain upside. Instead, they started prioritizing the things they knew they could execute well, basically trading a lottery ticket potential for speed, leverage, and repeatable success.
All right, we've seen the model, we've seen the impact, and we've learned the hard lessons. So now it's your turn. You have to ask yourself, are you really prioritizing?
Let's do a quick self-check right now. Does your team have a shared, agreed-upon scoring model for every initiative? Can you, right this second, name the specific projects you are actively saying no to this quarter? And are your biggest, most expensive bets the ones with the absolute clearest ROI and the highest certainty of success? If the answer to those is no, then you're probably not prioritizing. You're just sequencing a wish list.
And that really brings us to the final, crucial takeaway. In a brand new startup, the idea itself feels like currency. It's everything. But as you scale, as you become a real operating company, resources are the only currency that matters. And execution, that's the compound interest. If you're building roadmaps based on consensus or just good vibes, you're not prioritizing, you're just telling stories. And at scale, every single yes has a price. The best companies are the ones that finally learn how to start charging.